from a long day of work. You put your things down and slip into something a little more comfortable. You sit down on your couch, ready to watch some TV, when a very familiar sound plays. It startles you, but you've gone through a tornado warning before. You look up at the TV, only to figure out this is much more than a tornado warning.
The following message is transmitted at the request of the United States government. This is not a test. The United States has been subjected to a nuclear attack. The North American Aerospace Defense Command has detected the launch of 12 nuclear missiles aimed towards the mainland United States. 4 of the 12 missiles launched have been intercepted. The 8 remaining nuclear missiles will strike the following locations in the next 15 to 20 minutes: Los Angeles, San Diego, Chicago, Houston, Phoenix.
Panicked, you immediately seek underground shelter, but nothing is open. Seconds turn into minutes as your panic turns into dread. As you brace for missile touchdown, you hear a notification from your phone. Missile alert in error. There is no threat. What seems like a twisted horror story is a reality Hawaiian stuff in 2018. Luckily, there weren't any actually missiles headed towards Hawaii. It was simply human error. Though, the threat felt very real to civilians, who all feared what they couldn't control. Why do we fear what we can't control? If you ask the general public what their biggest fears are, many common responses would be nuclear war, natural disasters, growing older, death. We have to ask why. Why do we fear things we can't control? You could argue that fearing such is human nature, or that fearing such mentally prepares you for the events. To understand why we fear what we can't control, we can view examples in the media. The internet grants so much room for creativity, it's amazing. It's sometimes terrifying. Apocalyptic scenarios, once no one would actually want to go through, can be created and experienced from the discomfort of your own home. Even things that you're confident would never happen still scare you. But what if it did? If you haven't gone down the EAS rabbit hole, you're missing on one of the most atmospheric experiences of your life. It goes from tornado warnings to nuclear fallout warnings, down to alien warnings and ambiguous warnings. For those of you who have, you understand that what makes the scenario so scary is that many of them could happen, and for some, they have happened. Many people remember hearing the first tornado warning, along with the feeling it gave them, a feeling of panic and dread. You don't know what's going on, but the ear-piercing noise tells you it's not good. Even the automatic voice announcing the message was intimidating. Even if you're un-American, most countries' EAS alarms still sound terrifying, especially alarms from the past, though it makes sense why it's so panic-inducing. EAS alarms are meant to put you in a state of panic, as you can notice with EAS alarms during real-field times. Being put in a state of fight or flight makes you act, increasing your chance of survival. The panic-inducing alarm works until someone enters the other mode, freeze. It makes sense why you go into the state of fight or flight. It helps us evade threats and live longer. But why do we freeze? Multiple answers make sense. It may be to play dead. It may be the brain trying to unpack the situation laid before thou. Or maybe it's something more dark. Maybe it's the brain's understanding of the hopelessness of the situation. Maybe it's the brain's way of telling the body to cease hope. Or maybe it may never be truly known. Online AOGs have been on the internet since man created the first computer. A recent one that depicts the fear of the unknown is the Mandela Catalog, circling around a being called an alternate that's said to drive people to the brink of insanity. Despite being an ARG, the concept is terrifying, though the one I started with was Local 58. Local 58 takes the fear of natural disasters and depicts them in an eerie light. Instead of a problem occurring on Earth, there seems to be a problem with the moon. Something is off about the moon, as well as the video broadcast. Whatever the thing is, they aren't happy, and they want their revenge. Most ARGs, which typically turn out to be analog horror, plays on the human fear of the unknown. Both leave out key information that makes the viewer have to draw conclusions, typically ones that aren't good for the fate of mankind. Though sometimes blissful ignorance is better than knowing something you shouldn't.
50 feet. You will arrive at your destination. you have arrived.
The Call of Cthulhu. The birth of cosmic horror and the creature Cthulhu was revolutionary at the time of release. An unexplainable eldritch horror that can end entire planes of existence for fun is a terrifying concept. But even if you tone down the power scale, down to something Earth level, beings are still terrifying. The works of Trevor Henderson depict this perfectly. His creatures can be understood, yet they still put a feeling of terror into you. When you look at the images, you feel as if your fate has already been decided, and you cannot change what is about to happen. Scale the creature up a little bit, and you receive a natural disaster personified as a monster. They become a thing that cannot be controlled by man, one that will wreak havoc on the earth without remorse. Much like a natural disaster. You may be familiar with a certain catalog of stories that create a sense of hopelessness, the s.c.p. Foundation. Most know the basic classes, Keter, Euclid, and Save, but the one I find most terrifying is the Apollyon class. The Apollyon class contains world-ending creatures and paradoxes, though what I find most interesting is how the Foundation deals with it. With the Euclid class, the Foundation locks it away and has certain methods for preventing it from getting out. Even though it's unpredictable, it can be dealt with. With the Apollyon class, the best they can do is hope and pray, for world-ending threat is something they cannot control. Natural disasters are on the list of humanity's biggest problems, from hurricanes, to tornadoes, to tsunamis and earthquakes and more. Despite it being a big problem, we have absolutely no control over them. All we can do is predict the time of arrival. Reminisce back to when you were a kid. Did the thought of natural disasters scare you? Were you afraid you could lose everything just from a day of bad weather? Depending on where you live, you may have different experiences with natural disasters. If you live near a coast, hurricanes and tsunamis may have been a big problem for you. If where you live is landlocked, you may have experienced tornadoes. No matter what it is, it's most likely you're worried about natural disasters, and likely still do. I remember being terribly afraid of tornadoes, so much so, my heart rate would spike to unhealthy levels every time the alarm blared. Though I started to notice as time went on, I would get less and less scared of tornadoes. Were the tornadoes going weak over time? No. I simply stopped fearing such as greatly because I knew there was nothing I could do about it. Though, an eternal fear still remains.
Breaking point. A mass breakthrough, which is in any case beyond our means, is unnecessary. Within our reach, there are objectives, for the attention of which the French General Staff would be compelled to throw in every man they have. If they do so, the forces of France will bleed to death.
I can remember multiple instances of people being afraid another world war was going to break out. Somewhere in 2018, as well as in the peak fears and doubts of 2020, 2022, and 2023, and likely other times in the past few decades. It was bad for everybody but the spectators. Lives are lost, societies are threatened, and lands destroyed. The fear of nuclear fallout has been present since nuclear weapons have been created. When the creator fears his own creation, you know it's dangerous.
We knew the world would not be the same. Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." I suppose we all thought that one way or another.
Everybody and their mother has talked about aliens, whether it's someone claiming they saw a flying saucer outside their home, or someone having an existential crisis over the Fermi paradox. Aliens are in everybody's mind. Some people are scared aliens may find us and turn us extinct, but I have to object to that. No life form across the galaxy would waste that much energy to destroy a, in the grand scheme of things, meaningless planet. Though, everybody has feared an asteroid causing extinction event on the Earth. Though unlikely, there have been space debris that have come really close to hitting Earth. But the thing is, it's very unlikely for anything like that to happen. There's an incredibly low chance for one asteroid to hit Earth in the future. Though, it's easy to get your head wrapped around what could happen, or might happen. Letting go of what you can't control will relieve a lot of unnecessary stress in your life. Even though it is fun to feel such every once in a while. While you can't consider it, don't fear what cannot be controlled.